I think I prefer to not be. Yeah, keep the bummerness to my private hours.
Everybody gets the slides in the signal chat. That PDF that I dropped in, since we don't have a projector, I just shared the slides with you all and we can do it that way.
2, 3, 4.
I'm emoji and I in the chat, by the way.
Thank you.
So, they look like this.
Oh, yeah, you look good. Yeah. Thank you, bud.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so slide number 1
Oh, yeah.
is just general for everybody. How many are in Kentucky, Virginia?
Thank you, bud.
About you in here. North Carolina, West Virginia. We got you in here. A few other states for like data later. But in what specific ways are your communities most suffering? Like what's their, this is what everybody agrees on issue.
Runoff from my coal fields. Check my water.
Dirty water.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
In what way is your community, like, what does everybody agree this thing is bullshit? The one thing, like or more generally for Kentucky and say we don't have health care. We haven't had health care forever. They also in eastern Kentucky have water runoff issues, and sometimes their water table is so low that they don't have water for 2 to 3 days. So, yeah.
Could you send the slideshow and swap my time, please?
To the signal?
Thank you.
So all of these, the things like underfunded education, that's something that a lot of people can agree on, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, whether you're political or not political.
Housing. I'm in a homeless shelter right now, so it affects me now.
We're underpaid.
No job.
So there's these like key issues that we don't ever have to talk about which side of the aisle you're on, who you voted for. We can just talk about the fact that we all agree we're getting screwed on this particular issue. And all of these different things that we're naming are pillars of support that enable the system power. And if it weren't for these different pillars holding that system up, profitizing, putting it in, like lobbying, the system itself taxing you and not the pillars. So the slide number 2 is there's a lot of pillars of support, but some of them are education, law and order in the courts, policing and military, housing, media and information, energy and utilities, environmental and infrastructure, which would be where the water would come in. All of those things, our participation is what allows the system to stay in power. And we're participating in something that we all agree is bullshit, is screwing us over. So why do we continue participating? And what are the options to not participate, you know? The system sucks, but it's always got to survive. So what options do you have then? You know?
Boycott.
Yeah. So I kind of skipped over slide 3 just talking, but when the systems themselves fail the communities are who suffer harm, not the pillars, not the system. The people that already are suffering harm, even when they fail, it just comes, not the system, the people that already are suffering harm, even when they fail, it just comes back. It just comes back onto us. So the system governs the conditions in which we live, and when the system does not serve its people, the conditions in which we live are not livable. They're not adequate to survive. On slide number 4, I have a map of Kentucky state medical access. The dark blue means you basically have no medical access, and our entire state can agree on that. We also are going to see 35 rural hospitals closed. That's not on this map. 200,000 people are going to lose Medicaid. That's not on this map. Doctors and nurses are leaving our state in droves. We haven't had, they don't want to go to prison for a patient having a miscarriage, you know? So our medical care is not going to get better, and our people are going to die because that system has failed us. So, like I said, I put some of the other states' medical care access down here at the bottom if you just wanted to look at your particular state. But what do you do when a system fails you? Like, you can bitch and complain about it in your Facebook group, but how do you make the national medical system, Kentucky, that has cancer and no insurance? You're just dependent on that, and there's nothing you can do. You can protest. On the next slide, I have the types of non-cooperation, the different things that you can do to push back against that. You can build engagement. That's protest and rallies, email and call your representatives, sign petitions. They don't actually make a change, but they build engagement and support behind the fact that you want a change. And then there's disruption, like mass mobilization, blocking major import and export lines, strikes, general strikes especially would be helpful. Boycotting, we really hurt McDonald's and Starbucks and Target pretty good, but the system and those pillars, what we're doing is we're taking one hit at medical, and then we're taking one hit at corporate, and then we're going and beating on foreign affairs, but we're not concentrating on one thing and doing something about it. We're stuck in this engagement disruption phase where we're not getting over the hurdle. The next slide is alternative systems. That's the third type of resistance and non-cooperation, and that's building something different that does serve your people. It allows you to reclaim community autonomy. When you are having people organize in your community around that system, you're building trust, and you're individualizing it for what your specific community needs. Because while Kentucky needs healthcare, you all may need water, and you're working on a different pillar, but you're concentrating on it. And I'm working on a different pillar, because one state flipping the script on medical influences the federal. You demonstrate that there is an alternative. There's another option. Other people are going to go to that option. They're getting screwed right now, and you center the people most affected. The communities that don't have health care or water are the center of that organizing what actually does work for them. You can build participation across party lines, because that man that was out here did not vote the same way that I did this past election, but he completely agreed that we needed an alternative system of medical care. So if you leave politics out of it, you can build something else. And he would have divested from the for-profit industry and ultimately boycotted with me, and I never had to tell him he was getting ready to protest. It's a tactic, I guess. and divesting from the medical care industry, disrupting the profit, and them getting no money out of Kentucky. I mean, we're super poor, so most of it, what they did is recycle federal funding, but they depend on us to get cancer. They depend on us to have heart attacks, you know, and to rely on that system, and then they profit off us when we die. It restores trust through accountability by way of utilizing the community members, and it ensures sustainability by way of like things get passed down, you retrain, you keep an ongoing training. The more people hear about it, the more they want to get involved, and it's a continuing cycle, just in the same way that herbal medicines used to be passed down, recipes for cooking used to be passed down. It's something that we can relearn and reinstitute in our states, especially, you know, being from the South. It can transform culture and collective consciousness. And the culture today is them on one side, and then there's another them that's kind of like in the middle-ish, and then there's my people over here, and we don't fuck with them, we don't fuck with them, you know. But when you take all of that out of it and you just concentrate on the specific needs of your community, you transform like their everyday thinking and how they see people inside their own community. That is the first step to seeing people outside of your community a different way. And if community opens, they can transform the friction we got going on right now. And like I said, it provides proof of concept. That's how you get other people to do it, is to prove it can work somewhere else first. And like the free stores, that's an alternative system, and that's a sustainable system. It just, we need to continue to replicate things like that, and we need to get people to concentrate on what they're good at and not just like, you know, and pick a pillar and make something better and then grow it outward so that it becomes substantially important enough, you know, like notice enough that other people are doing it too.
When you say a pillar,
That was in the beginning.
oh, okay, sorry.
So in that quick refresher, in the beginning we take what our specific community issues are, and there's water runoff issues, and there's medical care access, and there's ICE, and there's education funding problems, and there's an issue inside every community that everybody agrees this is bullshit. And realistically, each of those things are pillars of support that hold up the system, even medical infrastructure. And so our participating enables those pillars to remain and hold up the system's power. If we choose not to participate, build an alternative system, we weaken the system itself. Does that make sense? Like, the long version was better.
Yeah, it's okay.
It made
I'll
more
read the
sense.
notes later.
We're also reading off of a slideshow in the signal thread, if you have that.
Oh. I don't know if I got this one. I'll find out. No, I'm trying to relate this to what I do, a lot of asset-based development, which is maybe a little different. Anyway, I'll think about that.
Okay.
I'll find the slides.
They should be the most recent. They were the most recent message, and they just a minute ago.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh.
so you got it?
The one from May.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
That'll help you to
That'll
really
help me.
understand how we got
Visuals really
here.
help.
Okay, so shifting now more specifically to my system of medical care, because I couldn't begin to formulate a plan for each person to talk about. So specifically with medical care, and a little background about how we started out. My organization planned a protest in January, and I coordinated it with some friends in Bowling Green and some friends in Lexington so we could do them at the same time. And February, planned another protest. In March, planned another protest. But I protested with Breonna Taylor protesters in Louisville, so I know I need security, I need medics, I need bike blocks, I need, and so I had, there was a doctor in our group, and she trained a group of us as protest medics. And then the next month, an Army field medic came to our protest, a former Army field medic, who is also Red Cross, CPR, and first aid certified trainer. And Nicolette was like, I can help you, train some people. So then we did like a leveled up skill training, and we started being, anybody could request us to come be their medic. But then we trained the group in Bowling Green because they were also still doing the same thing. We're coordinating, doing the same thing. And with a Human Rights Umbrella Coalition is what, and it's all activists. I'm the only organization in it. But, so we went and trained them. And then we went and trained Kentucky People's Union in Ashland. And then, oh gosh, I couldn't even, we've trained 4 or 5 times in Louisville. We've trained in Henry County. Just, we're bouncing back and forth. On this map, on the slide, you'll have to zoom in, but the little logos that have a white background are where we've trained already, and the gray backgrounds are where they're on the waiting list, because we start training again in January. And when we complete our training on November 8th, we will have trained 100 medics in the state. And like you can tell on the map, we're just kind of like crisscrossing, because you don't know when your time's up for training people. And I want it as spread out as I can get it before then, So the level 1 medic training, which is where we're at now, we are county to county, 120 counties, so from county to county, free medic training for the community. You get medic supplies, which it's all people power funded, and we run donation drives for, and everyone that attends gets resources, and then they get CPR, first aid, tourniquets, stop the bleed, splint, burns, medication administration, patient consent, electric wires, drowning. It's intense. It's a lot. It's a Army field medic, that put it together, and we put it together for real strong protesting, but Kentucky didn't get there, and so we had to shift. Like, how else can we resist? And this is divestment. It's non-cooperation, and it's something that lasts. We are offering people a long-term survival by training medics in every community and teaching them how to provide care for themselves. Economic lifesaver for people. So a lot of the focus for me personally is rural Kentucky, and getting medical care there. Rural Kentucky seems on board with apothecary herbs, and it's a place that it could really work. When I get into the cities a little bit, into Louisville and stuff, they're like, I'm fucking Tuesday. And I'm like, but that's where we're at now. And I'm at capacity of how many trainings I can do. But over the end of November, December, January, we're going to be training more trainers, and I'm going to put them regionally. And we're going to have 8 trainers that will eventually be supply hubs, apothecary, greenhouse hubs, training hubs, where that area and all of those medics, that's their home base. And also in like April or May, we'll start level 2 training. So if you're already a level 1 medic, you can go to level 2, and that's going to be EMT level. but we're not gonna actually certify them so that we can say in good Samaritan laws, and I don't know what they're called in their own states, but that's what Kentucky has. So it's like a legal loophole. We are allowed to do this. We're not doing anything wrong. And then the EMT would be the team lead. Then 4 level 1 medics would be, and that would be a team, because, you know, there are 419 towns and cities in Kentucky, so some of those towns and cities maybe need 16, 18. Henry County, where I live, our towns and cities, we could do 2 in the whole county, and we probably have, you know, 2 medic teams in our whole county, because we're flat, we're not spread out. Some of the counties that maybe even don't have higher population but have bad terrain would be more. So I'm looking at 900 total teams eventually. That's 900 EMTs and 36, you know, 4,000 level 1 trained medics. That would have to be a 10-year plan, but I don't have 10 years, so that's why we're bouncing back and forth with them, so that however far I get in the amount of time I got is the foundation of what, and then those teams are going to have to be inspired to grow, you know, and really take it over at some point, and it gets a little harder. But we are building an offshore server, so when someone does need medical care, they're requesting from a secure server that the American government would never have access to, and then only 34 people, like my board, would have access to that whole server, and then we would dispatch that to the regional hub for their
like
medic team to
a
go
virtual
out.
private network kind of deal for your server?
Do what?
Like a virtual private network?
Yeah, and this one is based in the UK, but it's it's completely owned by us. We're the only ones that would have access to the data, or I'm not a technology person. I'm a person, a computer technology person that's building it for me. That the American government will never get it. Like, that was this is why I wanted to be secure. So that's going to be done in January. So we'll be able to start testing that out by building the med teams on it, you know, and like using it for communication, trying to develop what that looks like. But I'm telling you, the first protest is in January. We're very beginning stages, but we've got the 100 medics trained. And the scale model and what I envision it'll work, you know, if I can get the funding to get enough trainers and enough medics and really bang it out. So there's a slide about all of that I just talked about. There's 2 or 3 slides.
Who are your other community partners? Do you have other partners in the community? Like, other than, like,
Like, for this yet, have I partnered with other orgs? Not yet. I have a C4. C4s aren't governed in the same way by the government as C3s are. Like, I get to have a lot more opinion, and I get to protest. So, funding for C4s is almost non-existent unless I go campaign, and I'm particular about what I'll campaign for or not, because if I'm going to tell somebody to do something, it's because I believe that's not going to harm somebody else, you know. But I have talked to a couple of C3s about funding, and then I'm also part of the KKK table, which is the Coalition of Kentucky organization. They're, you know, very supportive and help me and stuff. But so far, it has been like very difficult. People agree, and they think that it's great, and then political money stuff. So people have really.
I was just wondering if you'd ever reached out to like volunteer fire departments.
One of our.
I feel like they are a little more official and more involved in like the system, but I feel like their hearts are in a lot in the same place as you. They're like, whatever way we can help people, that's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, Breathitt County is a fire department that I've had a good relationship with since 2022, and they're on that. They're one of them. Right, one of the dots on there. Yeah, I've gone down there so many times. I also put a little justice library in there, which is class for anti-racism, unionizing, like Appalachian history in a little library to try to rile them back up. Trying to get my rednecks out here. But long term, once those teams build, we'll be taking organizing training, how to do one-on-ones. We want to build relationships, particularly with churches, because they are protected to a degree from the federal government. So running a free medical clinic out of a church basement every Saturday from 10 to 2 is something that also volunteer doctors and nurses or physical therapists or social workers can come to, and there can be an existing clinic that's every Saturday, and then also a response team. So, like what you can do with it inside your community is going to be what your community needs. Your community may not need a rapid response group because your EMTs are still operating, your ambulance squads or whatever, but you may need a free clinic, or you may need just doing like athletic physicals at school. You do all the athletic physicals at the school. We're talking the 3.5% model. Just doing athletic physicals at every single school in the state gives you a pretty big margin on participation in an alternative system. And by all of those kids coming to this, instead of going to the for-profit system, that's a big chunk of change, especially in a place like Kentucky, where we're always believing on capitalism. There's no getting out of that. So basically, we fight systems with systems. The way you beat the system is to create an alternative system that truly serves people, that does not extract from your community, but instead empowers your community, educates your community. Veterans are a great resource for someone who would be a good community medic. They have experience in volatile situations, and the homeless, that, a lot of homeless people just want to feel worth, like for you to think they're worth something like that. That's a perfect role for them to ingrain themselves in caring for their community and feel valued in that. So, former inmates, they have greenhouse and gardening classes in prison. They know how to grow the apothecary herbs that we need. So that's a group of people that may want to run the greenhouse for the medicinal component. But our medics are called community care medics, and it's an acronym. Community access, response, and education. The community access ensures that everyone has access to essential services directly within their community. Response equips communities with the resources needed to act when systems fail without relying on or dividing our communities by way of partisan political debate. And education, and share knowledge. Access to knowledge is a huge hurdle in rural Kentucky. A lot of the cities have more access to knowledge and training than the rural parts of the state. So you're allowing access to knowledge that is gate kept from people, blocked off. Training resources and the ability to understand what they have created so that they can replicate that for something else. So our water is bad. It's how do we teach everybody how to filter water? I've got 2 5-gallon buckets and a Berkey filter in the top ones, DIY things at home, and people could be talking about Berkey filters, and you could teach them how to build them. But there are alternatives, and the longer we continue to participate, we're just instilling more power. Even if we're bitching about it, we're still holding it up. So, that's my class. Any questions, or like, it can be specific or broad?
There's so many problems.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out where to even ask the right question.
And it's like too, like, you know, during this, right after, or right before the pandemic happened, I lost both my parents due to like medical situations.
My
But it's
stepdad
like,
passed away.
in desperate times, desperate measures. And it's, you know, in those moments, what else to do in extreme, you know, health issues? The answers participate in their messed up system. It's still known they're poisonous. And it's like poisonous still yet with our food system too, you know. Like resistance is obviously key, but in those scenarios, like we have no option either, like other than to just, you know, take that. So it's like I love this, and I think that you know, building up from step one where you know these people are certified to first aid and that all the way up, and that's right. That's how we can get there. Just keep working it, you know, etching it away over the time, getting from medic to doctorate, and
Yeah, I think of it kind of like, because I'm also trying to run campaigns, and in a campaign you take your win number, and then you figure out what your scale and capacity is, and how you're going to run it. You do it backwards, and so what we need 900 teams across the state of Kentucky, and how do we create that down and back? So like I said, it takes 10 years. But March 2027, our hospitals they'll close. If I've got 25 counties at that point with medical teams in them, the other counties are going to. How come Henry County people ain't dying? You know, like, and hopefully that'll be enough to.
I do have a question. Like, if you do have medics that come in and volunteer their time, does it have to be like a sterile place? Like you were mentioning like a church station or whatever. What if it was like an Amish built shed that was all full out with like solar panels and shit?
We have drafted, like, for our local group, a liability form that weighs everything. Like, you're getting treated by a community member, and you're getting treated to the best of our abilities because there are no other options. And if you feel you need to go to the hospital, then that's exactly where you need to be headed, you know. But my friend Asia says, and I've said this before too, people make choices based on the options they are given. And if you have no option, you die. If the option is a milkshake and an almond farm to get some backdoor apothecary herbs that might save your life, and there's no other option, I mean, I would immediately get back to that farm personally. But I don't think that everybody has like being poor or without to the level of understanding that they would also be at that farm yet, which is part of like how we're still protest medics. We're just training community medics, and people don't actually realize the scale in which decided, I didn't decide till maybe July, you know, like this is where I'm going to go with it. But I went to a training at Highlander for non-cooperation trainers and freedom trainers, and they said alternative systems, and I was like, that's exactly what I'm doing. And so then having the words for knowing that I was trying to train medics in all the counties across the state allowed me to organize around a system, like creating an alternative system. This is a growing idea. I just planted an indoor apothecary greenhouse with grow lights in my house because I like to try things, and then I like to tell people about them. So I've got to grow this and make a medicine out of it, and then I'll tell people, look, you need to grow this. And I've got, like I said, water filtration. I've got rain barrels. I've got a little bit of DIY solar. I want to build a digester tank that produces cooking gas. I just, the more off the system dependent people are, the more they'll survive. So I just want to have an answer. I'm a mom. I'm gonna try to take care of everybody, but my concentration as my organization, my work is on the medic teams, and then at my house, every angle.
I think this goal is incredible.
It's global, like PO4 batteries, and I can buy one battery at a time and add, or one solar panel scalable, which is what most people need. Something when you got a couple of $100 to buy one component, but when you got a couple of $100 and they say this costs $8,000, people are like, I'll spend my couple of $100 at the place to get a movie.
Johnny Cash's song, One Piece at a Time.
In poor classes, you aren't taught many things, skills and stuff in a way that enables you to save up $20,000 for a great big solar panel and stuff. It's not ingrained in our communities. I know there's different organizations that help with stuff like, teaching people. When I was in school, we had a checkbook class, how to balance a budget, and that's just non-existent anymore. But the poorer we are, the more they profit off of us. So that's for their benefit. Also, I heard AI can't read cursive, and that's why they took cursive out of school. I learned cursive, but AI can't read it.
I've been doing a lot of calligraphy, like splatter, splash. They can't read that either. I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you're making protests.
And that's like speaks to their long game plan, They've had AI for decades at this point, and they were like, oh shit, they can't read anymore. Quickly handwriting, we got to pull that out of elementary school. We didn't have a clue.
A place near me, it's a person. They used to do like apprenticeships and fellowships there, but he would have to at a stage of his life now. I mean, he could look at it. But the place's name is Equinox Botanical. He's done exactly what you are working on.
Go to the bathroom again?
And he has this apothecary farm. This way. The most magical place I've ever been in.
And guys, excuse us, we're coming through.
I've only had my apothecary for a month. My class was this time.
And, well, he grows, like, a lot of what he uses is actually forest botanicals. So he has a lot of land that he got for cheap back in the day because it was old strip mine land. And he slowly, like, farmed it and worked it back to health and grows, like, the native botanical medicines there. And then he makes medicine out of them on his farm. But he also has, like, a beautiful garden and a greenhouse where he grows other things. And, like, an apothecary with, like, the whole system where he makes his medicines. And people would go to him just like that. They'd be like, I have this problem. And he'd be like, come on over and give him, sell him the medicine for cheap, It was just, at his cost. He never really made, like, a lot of money off of it.
So the key thing there is a small piece of land, right?
It's a pretty big piece of land.
I mean, if you're gonna start a little place.
But it was cheap because it was degraded,
Right.
And this was, in the 70s that he bought this, so it's a little different.
Which is great that it can be done.
But through his apprenticeship programs, he did this over the years. He would have groups of interns basically come out, and they'd spend like the whole growing season on his farm with him, and they would learn by doing. They would help him do everything on the farm. So he sort of got free labor in a way, and we're like, that's brilliant. But they would learn a lot in the process, and just about every year, one of them would really, like, everybody would learn and have a great time. Nobody ever had a bad time with Paul Strauss. He's a great guy. in a beautiful place. He has like a hot tub that he carved out of a rock that overlooks a waterfall. It's great. Like, it's freaking great. I'm like, why don't you invite me to parties, Paul?
Can we go there next year?
Yeah, right? But well, and as he was established in the community there and earned their trust, and that took a long time because he's like a hippie from New York City, and he moved to Meigs County, Ohio. Like, and but he did these, you know, he had this group of interns every year. They'd come, they'd learn, they'd work, and a few of them would catch the dream, and he'd always have the lookout in the neighborhood for other farms up for sale, and he'd snap them up. If you know, he'd get it in a contract if it was for sale, and he would save it for those interns. So they're like, you know, this person's ready to actually do it. And he would establish, so he's built this whole little community down there, and like he's not in charge of it, but he kind of founded it. And so there's all these people down there doing that, like growing the medicine or farming or doing some sort of like, you know, earth sustainable business, and or just living there with their families, you know. And if you ever get the chance to go to United Plant, he helped found United Plant Savers, which is a bigger like 501c3 organization.
Is that what the link that was in our chat?
Yeah, United
I
Plant
opened
Savers.
that was really awesome.
He helped found that group, and actually the Golden Seal Preserve was a part of his property that he like gave that to them to like do their thing and establish United Plant Savers. So he's still affiliated. His family is taking over his business. It's still like Equinox Botanicals is still going. It's the same spirit. It's the same methods. You know, they're still like in the barn making the medicines, and it's great. There's these like big jars. It's so cool. It's so cool. I can't describe it. He didn't let me take pictures. He did not let me take pictures in his monastery. Because it was a secret space. But check out United Plant Savers. I think they might have things they're going to have workshops and resources and people who know things that will help you accelerate what you're doing. Because I hear you saying like 10 years is too long. If you need to accelerate it, like those are the folks who like they know what you need, and they'll be like, do this. Yeah. And they're gonna know like where you get
What
the
state
stuff
is that
to
in?
make the medicine. It's in Ohio, in Meigs County, just down the road from where I live.
The link is in our.
I'm super lucky to live
I
near
don't
them.
know.
They're so
I have
good.
the phone stuff on there.
I have their name on my bag here, so.
That's my field.
Thank you, that was fantastic, yeah.
That's great.
Thank you, Virginia.
Very inspirational.
Definitely.
I'll come train you.
Yeah, so I was honestly, that was a question in my mind, like once you're ready to expand out of Kentucky,
I know. When I was at the house,
or we'll have to come to you, I guess.
I mean, that would be the next step, realistically, is like a regional operating, and you know, then we would expand out from there.
Think of the verbal power that would bring. I would do this through many states. So yeah.
Yeah.
Or even a whole state is beautiful.
That's giant.
And I like that you're going, you know, all over wherever you can get in, so that they can see it in the surrounding area to draw it even more further in.
A lot of the complaints of people who don't vote or like don't support either party is they don't actually give a shit about it. Even the Democrats don't support candidates in rural Kentucky. It's a waste of money. And so that's, you know, that's the most abandoned part. And even though there may be 500 people in Louisville, that I could do a training there every week for the next 6 months, Kentucky is always
Like that's
funneled into Louisville and Lexington and a little bit northern Kentucky and a little bit Bowling Green. That's it. And everybody else, we're the ones that actually don't have any medical care access for 3 hours away. If somebody gets breast cancer and they gotta go to chemo, you know, that's 3 hours there, 3 hours home. Probably gonna have to take an extended time off work. Somebody's gonna drive them. That's another person has to take off work. That is something that Kentuckians cannot afford, and people will die of anything. An infected wound on their leg can lead to sepsis. You're not gonna drive 3 hours to get stitches and a cut on your leg. It's not gonna happen. It's not financially possible. So we have to offer another alternative, or they will die.
Are there any, I know there's a few in Ohio, and they're usually actually affiliated with like the university hospitals that have like traveling clinics.
I'm not
They're
sure.
not really rapid response, like they're not necessarily there when you need them, but they can be there for that like primary care kind of stuff.
Yeah, like they could also be like
And it's kind of
follow-up
like,
care.
it's like a checked out RV that's turned into a clinic basically,
Right.
and they just like,
We have some of those, probably not as much as other states that have more money than Kentucky does, but like if you were to do an athletic physical and a kid had a heart murmur, that's something that like
then they need to
our
follow
level
up.
can't treat, so then that's where something like those mobile clinics, maybe they came in once a month or once every other month, that we could have more of a secondary, because that's more in the like third step. Once the EMTs start getting trained, then that's when like the relationship building, the establishing a team, and then having them build the personal relationships around them with volunteer doctors, somebody that can do the commissary, somebody that can dispatch for them, and like really building. We're giving you a skeleton, but we don't know your community. So you put this together. Here's all of your resources. Now use them in a way that your community needs them. Oh, and then another component, we have social workers. And so all the medics that we train are going to do stuff that they didn't pick for their job in life, you know, maybe that they can't just like handle like all the way on a daily basis. But if I came up on a car wreck and there was a child in there that didn't make it, that's not something that I had signed up for as a part of my life experience this time, you know. But we have the social work. They're building a resource where our medics will always have a therapist that they can call, and if it's something about their, you know, volunteer level, then they'll have referrals so that we can care for the people that we are putting out in the world to care under extenuating circumstances. That's another component.
Build alternatives that like economically like hurt other existing institutions too. You know, so I don't know. I feel like there's been like I haven't like ever done a street medic training. I really want to, but I'm also like just like happened upon enough. I think we probably all have stuff where I'm like I'm winging it, but I would like more training. That also, every time I wing it in a situation, I'm like, I feel a little bit less helpless, or I understand a little bit more. I think like, I was like just thinking about like, how do you, I think in your situation and the work that you're doing, like the stakes are real and they're high and they're very obvious. And I think in other like places, I could, so, like where I live, I can see patterns of people being like, okay, I know that I'm struggling, but I know that I can get by. So I'm not going to lean into the creating the alternative. I'm just going to lean into the struggling place. But like trying to figure out ways to get people to lean the other direction with each other. And just being like, I don't know, yeah, thinking about training. Just like every time I come across stuff, I'm like, damn, I wish I'm going to like try, this person is not in good shape right now, but I'm going to like try to do anything I can. And the next time it happens, I'm like, there's no hesitation for me to show up in that way, even though I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But like, yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I'm appreciating this idea of like what actually hurts. If we don't want to see police, then we have to train ourselves to respond to situations.
Exactly.
So like, I think people don't know that they have the capacity to do that, even if they feel like they need training, and we should get training. I was just kind of ranting, but I just appreciate this idea of like actually creating something that economically impacts the existing institutions, knowing that like, yeah, SNAP is gone or whatever, you know, like this shit is real and it's happening right now. So I know, I'm grateful for the strategizing.
Yeah, it's very
Same way
timely.
about mutual aid and things, not in like medical ways, but like to even show up in those, moments of disaster and things like that to bring in supplies, like, do I even know enough how to do it? But the more you do it, like you said, it's like, nope, now the next time, like, unfortunately, they're coming more back to back and closer to each other than they've ever been. So it's like, unfortunately, I'm getting a lot more training, but, it does take that confidence level to get to the next step and to see those connections like what you're talking about.
And you don't necessarily have to go looking for them, they're at the fiscal court meeting if they're pissed off because they haven't had clean water for 2 weeks coming out of their faucet. They're there. You just have to go there and be like, okay, we gotta figure out something to do because we've been up here 25 times in the past 30 years. Here's what I think we should try. Let's have a meeting and let's figure out if we can figure out how to filter our own water. And if we can figure that out, then let's figure out how we can install rain collection barriers. They don't have to realize that they're building an alternative infrastructure for their water supply. They're just serving their basic needs. And as an organizer, you can develop, okay, so the next need that we're going to and scale it up from there, and then before you know it, you can be like, y'all, we ain't fucked with the city's water for 3 months. None of us are on that. And we built an alternative system. You can introduce what they're doing when they're ready to learn what they're doing, but you can teach them the skills that they are live on the way. That's my class. My first workshop ever.
It was incredible.
Thank you. I've got all kinds of all kinds